Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted more purpose, direction, and abundance in your life, then do we have the Being You, Changing the World show for you. Today we'll be talking with Dr. Dain Heer, best-selling author, co-creator of Access Consciousness, and the mastermind behind one of my all-time favorite books on discovering our true selves and shifting our lives, Being You, Changing the World. And that's just what I want to talk with him about today, about discovering the sleeping giant within, stepping into our own power, plus how to find the abundance and prosperity we deserve. That plus we'll talk about life lessons in horses, Roman castles, motorcycles, and the summertime, and what in the world 3 days of cranky pants has to do with anything. So welcome to the show, Dane. Are you ready to shine?
Oh, Michael, I am ready. Let's do this thing.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
So this is your third time on the show, so we're not going to go into your full story here. But before we dive right into things, can you give us the abridged Dr. Dain Heer 101?
Yes. 17 years ago, I was a chiropractor and got to a place where I wanted to end my life after trying so many things to change it. Self-help, psychology, metaphysics, you name it. I tried it. And said, universe, look, you got 6 months. Either my life really changes, because I was tired of having 3 days of happiness from what I did, and then being back in the soup and being unhappy and depressed. And I said, either my life changes or I'm out of here. I gave the universe 6 months. A week later, I came across something called Access Consciousness. I had one session of this thing called bars, and it was as though somebody poured liquid sunshine back into my life. And it was like, I mean, really, in an hour and 15-minute session, I went from being depressed and wanting to kill myself to looking up at the clouds going, has it always been this beautiful here? Oh my God, if it can be this way, I'm in. And within about 3 months, I stopped doing my chiropractic practice. I stepped into a way of using energy to help people change things, also to help heal their bodies and their lives. And within about 6 months, I was working with the founder of Access. His name is Gary Douglas, and we have been fast friends ever since, and we've been business partners for the last 16 years. And it's just been an amazing whirlwind of possibilities that have shown up. And it came at a time in my life where I truly thought I was done. I thought this is never going to change. And boy, has it changed. And not only that, but with Access Consciousness, we're continuously looking for different and greater ways to create change for everybody so that there are more possibilities available in our lives, because we live in a world of possibilities. It's just most of us don't seem to recognize it.
It's a perfect segue. Thank you for sharing on that. I love how you compressed it. You distilled it well. Let's take that word right there, and you're most welcome. Possibilities. This is one that you're very keen on. What does possibilities mean to you?
Well, for me, it means there's always another choice. There's always something greater available. There's always something greater than what's currently in front of you, even if what's currently in front of you is great. And there's a question that I share with people who come to my classes, and it's in the book. It's called, how does it get any better than this? And it's a fundamental principle that I use in my entire life, which is, I always ask, how does it get any better than this? When something good happens and it gets better, or when something bad happens, it still gets better. And that really, for me, is my sense is there is a reality of possibilities available to us. And it's more easily accessible now than it ever has been. But we live in a world that tells you that, no, you can only have this, you can only have this, you can only have this. And if you want something greater than that, you're supposed to know how to get there before you get there. But for me, the possibilities are, I would like this, so I'm going to ask for it. And it's really the embodiment of ask and you shall receive. If you want something greater, if you want something different, ask for it. The universe has the keys for you and how to get there. Your mind isn't bright enough to figure it out. But if you have this awareness there are possibilities available and you function from that, then what happens is the universe actually guides you. And I don't know about you, but I had heard this for years, trust the universe. And when I was in the Baptist church, and I became a born again Christian at 12 years old, that's an interesting experience, by the way. It was like, God will guide you. I was like, cool. And I let that happen for a few years in my life when I was a 12-year-old. And it was amazing. It was like being led to every next step because I had such faith and such trust. Well, living in this world, I eventually, I gave that up within a few years. And so people would tell me this thing about, just follow the universe. The universe has your back. And I didn't see it. Well, now I live it. But the thing is, it's not just that I can live it. It's like, if I can, so can you. And what I see is I get to work with thousands of people a year who actually start to get to have this as their reality. And the other thing about it is, so much of what is told to us in this particular realm, whether you want to call it self-help or self-development or self-improvement or whatever it is, so much of it is so friggin' airy-fairy. Yes, you should just feel better and think happy thoughts. And you know what? This is what I say to you in your happy thought point of view. Although it's a great idea, it's not nearly enough. You need to have tools to change the crap that's currently in your life so that you can actually start to embrace these possibilities. So on the one hand, it's like, what I would like people to know is there's this universe of possibilities available. On the other hand, most of us, the possibilities we're willing to have are about this big, but there is a way to go from here to here. And that's really what everything I talk about is about.
How do we dive into this? Okay, we're talking about waking the sleeping giant within. We've all been indoctrinated in just how small we really are.
Yep.
How do we stop that?
Well, the first thing you do is go F that to everybody telling you how small you are and everything that's wrong with you and everything you can't do and everything that you can't be. And, maybe it would help for some people to write down a list of all of the, okay, so this is my third time on, right? So we've done the clearing statement in the past, yes?
Yes.
Well, so what I would do, because there's two ways we can go about this. We can talk about the theoretics of it and I can give you some tools, or I can do what I would do with somebody that I worked with, which is, I find, far more effective. Even though the clearing statement that I use is a bunch of weird words and sometimes people are thrown off because they don't understand it. But it's basically short form for 6 pages of material. But basically what it's about is going back to where you created this limited stuff, whatever it is, and throwing it out. It's like, if you look at the wall, it looks solid, but science tells us it's 99.999% space, but it looks really solid. Well, what if it's the same thing with the limitations in our lives? What if they look really solid, but in actuality, there is a way to walk right through them?
So deep dive for us then. Let's assume that you've been with us several times, and everybody catch the other 2 shows. You'll be able to find them. They're on YouTube. They're on iTunes. They're everywhere. Come to our website. You'll find them there as well. Yes.
And if you want the explanation of the thing I'm about to use, go to theclearingstatement.com.
Perfect.
Theclearingstatement.com. And there's a 15-minute explanation of it there, me giving a video explanation. I just don't want to take the 15 minutes now. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of all the crap that we have bought from everybody about everything that's limiting. So let's do this first. Where it starts with most of us is with our parents. So everything you bought from your mom and dad that tells you you're not a sleeping giant, that you're not ever going to awaken, and that the best that you can hope for is to have a normal, average, real reality just like everybody else. And everywhere you bought that, in any lifetime, will you destroy and uncreate it, please? And the answer is yes, if you're willing to.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Now, that's the clearing statement. Right in the center of the clearing statement is something called POC and POD. And in essence, that's the meat of it, which stands for going back to the point of creation of wherever you bought these limited points of view and asking them to dissolve. Now, you don't have to do access consciousness in order to use this. Just friggin' use it. So when stuff comes up and you're out there in the world and you go, oh, I feel limited, POC and POD all that crap. You don't need to live with this anymore. And you don't have to believe it. You don't have to understand it. There have been millions of people who use it around the world at this point. So all you got to do, it's got enough energy to it. You just go POC and POD that, and it will actually start to work for you. And the other thing I want to explain is I'm saying the words, will you destroy and uncreate? The way this works is for us to not be the giants that we are. Because let's face it, if you're listening to Inspire Nation, if you're watching it, you know there's something different possible. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So let's acknowledge you're one of those people. You're one of the seekers of the world. I would call you a humanoid. A humanoid is one of these people that's a seeker, that's always been in judgment of themselves, that think that they're wrong, and then there's the other guys that don't seek anything, that think they're right and you're wrong. And why do you always do all this weird stuff? And why aren't you happy just sitting on the couch, flipping television, watching football with a beer? So given that you're a seeker, you already know something else is possible. Question is, how the hell do you get there? Well, if you recognize that every limit, there's only one person that has enough power to limit you. And we all know who that is. That's the one you look at in the mirror every day, right? Well, there's also only one person who has the power to craft your future in such a way to bring the possibilities into existence that you've always known should be available. Same person, okay? So you can use the energy you have available for you or against you. Mm-hmm. It's always you doing it to you. Everybody around you can be going around in a maelstrom of trauma and drama, of insanity. And if you don't buy it, if you just have it as an interesting point of view, you don't have to get sucked into it, and you can keep creating possibilities. So when I say destroy and uncreate, what we're doing is, in order for you to be limited in any way, it's like you're in this little box of what you call your reality. That doesn't actually have to be, by the way. And you're standing here in this box, and there's all these walls around you, all these bricks. And when I say, will you destroy and uncreate, I'm saying, will you destroy that structure that you created as though it was your only choice for reality? And will you uncreate, meaning will you take your creative energy out of creating those walls now and actually have it again for the creation of your life? So that's what I'm doing when I use this clearing statement and ask you, will you destroy and uncreate? Okay. So that's a bit of a quickie. Okay. A quick explanation of it. So now, so let's do this. At what age did you give up on the infinite possibilities that you saw and knew were available and should be available? And for most people, there's an age that comes up instantly. Now, that can be where somebody invalidated you. That can be where, I don't know, maybe you were abused like I experienced when I was a kid. Maybe, your best friend left, or somebody died, or your parents got divorced. I mean, it could be anything, or it could be something really small that you don't even know what it is. So let's do this. But the beauty of this is being able to actually change our choices from the past. Sorry, I just realized I was talking really fast because I'm really animated. It's like when you have 3 minutes on television, you're like, and everybody goes, did he actually say something? I'm doing one of those right now.
I think you got everything. Now I'm speaking really fast to mirror you. I think you got everything. You got everything across. However, the clearing statement did come out rather quickly. My assumption was it was going to come back around, coming around the mountain again.
Yes, it will. And I will say it slower next time. And what was interesting, Michael, is as soon as you breathed in, the background color changed behind you. And then when you breathed out, it went back to the normal color.
Wow, I'm sucking light.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm a chronic breather. Okay. So having said all of that, so at what age did you decide that the infinite possibilities you knew should be available could not be available? And how many times have you done that over the course of your life? So at whatever age that was, and wherever you first did it, that started that snowball rolling downhill, will you now destroy and uncreate that, please? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Now the clearing statement. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and pod, all 9, shorts, boys, and beyond. Okay. And that's in the book also. It's like there are ways to find, this thing if you actually want to use it. Otherwise, just sit here and listen and see what might start to change in your life. Because it's not that you don't have these choices and possibilities. It's that you've made choices that sit on top of the possibilities and squash them and don't allow them to breathe and live and thrive. And the difficulty is the choices so many of us are making in our lives are not about possibilities. They're about other people's points of view. They're about trying to do this right for this person or my family or whomever it is, which has nothing to do with us actually having choice and actually having the choices that we would like to have.
So we go to that age. In my case, bizarrely enough, 13 came up. I guess that was when I managed to get myself as a good Jewish boy into Catholic high school. And and away we went.
Oh my.
It was
Okay,
actually
so
for my spiritual development. It was the most awesome thing. But from a comfort zone, boy, was it a challenge. And it was taking a square peg and putting me into one heck of a round hole.
yeah. So let's do, now here's the thing. When I'm talking, here's the thing about access that's so different. Most of what's out there in the world, if I were doing some other modality or some other, whatever you call this stuff, what happens is we'd go to that age, and then we would have this long story and talk about it and all that. And then we would talk some more about it. And then we would talk about our insights from that. And then we would do this. And you'd wake up tomorrow still stuck in the same place, even though you'd gotten some lightness from getting the awareness that you got about where it happened. The difference in this is when I say, can we destroy and uncreate it? Mm-hmm. I'm literally asking to go back to the energy of all of that and those decisions and undo them. Totally different point of view. And by the way, a totally beyond this reality point of view. There are a lot of people, when I talk to them about what I do, they don't understand it at all. It's like, hey, I just saw a purple unicorn. No, you didn't. They don't exist. Yeah, but I saw one. Yeah, but they don't exist. That's basically people's points of view about this work until they've been around it for a while and they start noticing that they feel different. So Michael, can we do just a little bit on that 13-year-old thing you just talked about?
Sure. It never popped up until now. So why not?
Well, cool. So let's do this. Now, this is going to be interesting because a lot of people out there are this is a sacred cow for them. So let's do this. So all the feelings, see, one of the things that we found recently in Access, because we're always finding new things and creating greater change than we were able to create last week or 6 months ago. And one of the things that we found recently is that feelings are one of the greatest limitations we have. Feelings are always a negation and a limitation of your being. And you go, what are you talking about? Feelings are and there are entire books and practices devoted to getting in touch with your feelings. Mm-hmm. I get that. And there's still a limitation. I'll show you how it works right now. So all the feelings that got brought up when you were that age, mm-hmm. and everything surrounding it, and also all of the feelings you were aware of in everybody else's world that you tried to take away so they would look at you in a certain way. That was just not possible because you can't take away somebody else's feelings. So all the feelings that you had that stopped you or limited you then that are still in your life in any way, and all the decisions you made that got you there, will you destroy and uncreate it, please?
Absolutely.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys, and beyond. Wow. Okay, now all the no feelings, because we have feelings and no feelings, we have thoughts and no thoughts, we have emotions and no emotions. So we have the feelings, the thoughts, and the emotions, which we can sort of understand, but we also have the no side, which is where the feelings are so intense as a way of trying to get over it. We go, oh, I'm just not going to feel. And so you and I both know, and everybody listening knows, a lot of people in their lives that have decided not to feel anymore. But 99% of the time, what I found with those people is what they were feeling or experiencing at some point in their life was so intense, they decided they had to go to the no feeling as a way of surviving. So all the no feelings that you instituted as a way of surviving. And I want to say this also, everybody listening, if you actually are allowing yourself to be present with whatever that age was that came up, even if you don't know what happened, as I'm running this clearing with Michael, it will also work on you. So basically, you're getting a free mini session here.
Cool.
Okay. So all the no feelings that you used to try to handle the intensity of feeling that you thought you couldn't handle or decided you couldn't handle, will you now destroy and uncreate those, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Wow, that is a lot of stuff, my friend. And it makes sense. I mean, it's funny because we have these situations in our lives, and looking at them from the outside, you go, oh yeah, well, you went blah, blah, blah. You were a Jewish kid. You went to a Catholic high school. And it's like, hello, that's huge. And unless you lived it, one of the other things that sticks us is, unless you lived through a particular situation, unless you were the one living it, nobody else gets how intense it was. And nobody else can understand it because they're not living in your shoes. They're not living in your body at the time. So the other thing that occurs is there's this sense of like not ever having the intensity of that acknowledged. And especially with the way the world used to be, there was very little space to even talk about it and have anybody listen to you and have anybody actually get it. So everywhere that created a space where you felt like you were all alone in this and you couldn't do anything about it, which also gives you the feelings of powerlessness. And then you go into the no feelings to try to combat the feelings of powerlessness. But since you already took on the feelings, now you're covering it with no feelings. Now you're powerless inside of not feeling and not receiving, which is also where a lot of people develop their intimacy issues, quote unquote, and also where they develop their lack of receiving that leads to having lack of money, which is very interesting because it actually has a cause. And this is the thing people don't get. These things have a cause. Using this clearing statement, we can change the cause. So with everything that I just talked about, it brought up a lot of stuff, probably for you and a lot of other people, where they can start to perceive how this occurred. So everything that brought up and all of those feelings and then all of the no feelings on top of that you used to combat it, and everywhere where you felt like you were alone and unheard, not understood, not received, not cared for, and like a pariah, will you destroy and uncreate all that, please?
Oh, heck yeah.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. Whoa. Got a lot of energy on it, my friend. So in saying that, so let me just ask really quick, since this is, 5-10 minutes we spent, whatever it is. How's it feeling? Notice I use that word. How is it in your world right now? Better, worse, or the same, lighter or heavier?
We're somewhere in between these. You blah 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 blah.
Yeah, that happens too. By the way, when your brain fries, when we bust open certain of these things that have had major pathways laid down in your brain, you go to talk and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I can't talk from the same place anymore.
Yeah, wow, you hit so many nerves that in each thing you were saying, it was going yes, 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 yes. So there were tears just starting to flow, and at the same time, I'm going, be present, and that's going to be a great question to ask. And so I'm in a scrambled puree of healing here, Dane.
Yay!
Woohoo!
Okay, so that's great, and I love your vulnerability and being with it. See, that is such a powerful or potent space to be. The willingness to be with all of it, and also recognize, you've got the healing coming up. Here we are, we're doing the show. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, you're looking for, this is a great question. And here's the thing is, you and a lot of people out there, especially the humanoids of the world, the seekers of the world, have this continuous mental capacity to be actually able to be present with all of that. But what happens is we get made wrong for it from the time we're tiny because we can't focus. No, you not being able to focus is actually a gift. So, but I want to say that, but so what else? So Michael, in order to actually change this, what else do you need to hear or say or talk about? That. When I say that, it's because it's when it's running across your head. I just don't know what's in your head.
Well, all that's in my head is an image of, two images. One, me sitting on the stoop before school because I was there at school before anybody else, after everybody else, with a learning disability, in quotes. I'm sure you can relate to this a little bit, and banging my head against the wall, literally and figuratively. In fact, in class, I got an image now of me in an English class, literally banging my head against the wall, trying to be able to focus and pay attention to understand the boring professor or teacher. But I was there first in the morning, freezing my tail off in school, crying, the head of whatever, saying, you just need to try harder, son. And me going through the doorways, slamming the doorways open in the halls, in between the different hall sections, because I had such anger to the you need to try harder.
Okay. So, a couple of things we need to do. So, you need to try harder. You need to try harder. You need to try harder. That's a particular energy that gets lodged into your world. It's something called a secret, hidden, invisible, covert implant, but it's just what it answers to. So all of those of you need to try harder, and all of the invalidation of you that you experienced that is still with you because it was a lie. Okay? It wasn't that you weren't trying hard enough. It's that, which is why I went into that conversation before, it's that nobody got you.
Yeah.
Nobody understood the brilliance that you are. Everything that is, and all the invalidation of you, and all the you have to try harder, which is absolute bullshit and a lie and an invalidation. Will you destroy and uncreate it, please?
Oh, heck yeah.
Thank you. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Oh, my friend, I'm so sorry. That has so much energy on it. And the reason I say I'm sorry is because you, me, and thousands of people that I work with, it's like, this is the reality that has been handed to us. This is a reality we've tried to navigate. And it was never a reality based on consciousness and awareness. It wasn't a reality based on kindness. It wasn't a reality based on possibilities. It was a reality based on fitting into the box and doing things the way you're supposed to do them. And if you're different, like you are, different like I am, you're just made wrong, and that's it. So everywhere you were made wrong for being as different as you are, will you destroy and uncreate it, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And one of the things that we talk about in Access is that the people who have ADD, ADHD, OCD, and autism are, we call them the X-Men. They're actually the mutation of the species to a higher order of function, not lesser.
Thank you.
Okay? Yes. And there's a book I will send you. It's called You Wouldn't Teach a Fish to Climb a Tree. And it speaks about all of this. And the thing is, what you are, I'm so glad and I'm so grateful for you and your vulnerability. This is such a gift. So many people watching this have had some version of this or the full-blown thing. And nobody ever talks about it. I mean, I do in Access classes. You know, I get to talk about it there, but in a public forum like this, there's no space for this conversation. And it's part of why I work all the time, because I'd like the world to change to the degree that we can not only talk about this, but stop invalidating our kids and end the invalidation that we've been doing of ourselves. And so all the invalidation that you've been doing of you ever since, and everything that holds it in place. See, in a sense, what I would, if I had to label it, and I'm not a big fan of labels, but I want to put it this way so that people can understand how this works. In a sense, it's like suffering from a form of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. How does that work? Well, when you're traumatized like that, what happens is what we found is, and I got to say, we've had phenomenal success in Access working with people who have PTSD. We've worked with vets who would wake up in the middle of the night punching their wives because of them thinking they were still in the middle of some battle scene somewhere. And like, we had this Green Beret in Australia who would do that, wake up in the middle of the night punching his wife. She ran his bars a few times and he totally got over it. She ran his bars and ran something that we have that I don't really want to go into right now. It's too long of an explanation. But what happens with people who have PTSD is the intense traumas they experience continuously follow them because they're on this Mobius strip, this like infinity sign thing. So they never get any space from it. And so what happens is it's always there in the background somewhat. And for people who have PTSD dynamically, it's right here all the time. So all of there are these things called trifold sequencing systems. So I just want to say it so I can bring up the energy of it. But all of those that are keeping this looping through your life in any way, and all of the feelings and no feelings associated with it, and everything that locks it in, will you destroy and uncreate that, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Oh, my friend, there's a lot of energy on that one. Whew. Whoa. Okay, how's your world right now?
A little bit lighter.
Cool. I noticed that. Okay, cool. Because all I've got to go on when I work with somebody, whether in person or long distance, is the energy. And I'm going to also, everybody out there watching or listening, it's like, notice the difference in energy that just occurred. Notice the shift. This is one of the things I'd like you all to know is you're energetic beings.
Mm-hmm.
What do I mean by that? Well, you know when somebody's uptight because you start feeling uptight. You know when there's lightness in something and when somebody's not judging you because it's light to be around them. You're aware of energy to a degree that nobody has ever shown you. And, once again, this is one of the things I get to talk about in class, but not in public because there's no forum for it. So I want you guys to have this awareness so that you start to recognize that you're aware of how people feel. You're aware of whether they have a sense of space, whether they have a sense of contraction, whether they're judging, whether they're kind and open. You have these awarenesses because you're aware of energy. Having said that, and part of the reason I said that is because I want to go back to this thing, Michael, with high school, where how much awareness did you have of everybody else's insecurities, everybody else's sense of being weird and different and not wanting to be different, which is why people gather together in groups and then judge anybody who's outside of the group. And here you are, a Jewish kid coming into Catholic school. And if there's anything about Catholic school, it's everybody's supposed to be a good, appropriate Catholic, which is really tough when you're Jewish. Okay. But when I say that, how aware, if we just took high school in general,
Mm-hmm.
that is so intense as people's hormones start coming up. But when you're as aware as you are, and you're aware of their sense of wrongness, when you're aware of their sense of feeling separate, and I'm going to ask you this question. So, truth, are you a healer?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why you do what you do. And healing takes all kinds of forms. But somebody who's a healer will continuously try to take the unhealed parts of people's worlds away so that they can get healed. Whether it's feeling different, whether it's feeling insecure, whether it's being in judgment, whether it's not being smart enough. So all the people that you healed that you didn't acknowledge, and all the people you tried to heal that you invalidated yourself for because they wouldn't receive it, which leads to all kinds of stuff. Will you destroy and uncreate that and everywhere you've locked it into your body, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyond. Wow, my friend, that also has a lot of energy to it. Wow. So all of the invalidation of you that went on as a result of nobody seeing what you were really about and nobody even taking the time to try to find out what you were about and how they could contribute and how they might be there for you and how they might contribute to you. And everywhere that created a space of, I guess I'm just alone and I'm always going to be alone. Will you destroy and uncreate that, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyond. And what happens with that is when you have that point of view or when you have that in your world, you can be sitting right next to somebody. You can be in relationship with the most phenomenal, amazing person in the world. And there's a lot of you that's there when somebody's really phenomenal and caring, and yet there always feels like there's some part of you that's separate. So everything that doesn't allow you to access the parts of you that you have separated so that you can again have access to them for you and so that you can be fully present in your relationship and also fully present in your life and actually enjoy it way more than you're supposed to, especially as a little Jewish guy in Catholic school. Are you destroying? Are you destroying and create it, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. How's your world, my friend?
It's getting better. There's a piece that popped up. It's all getting better, but there's a piece that popped up, which is how much I was bullied, and I can remember walking down the hallway. Somebody tapped me on the shoulder, and then just you turn, and they just slug you, and you're down on the ground, and oh my God, the bullying and hazing that's popping up in my head right now because I fit in so perfectly at the time. Anyway, this is yes.
Okay, so let's go back to the anger part for a minute, okay? Because somebody that has the kindness in their world that you do, it takes a hell of a lot to get them to that place where they're slamming doors, where they want to kill people, where they could get to the place of hating somebody. So there's a few parts of that I want to address. The first is, oftentimes, I talked about the seekers of the world, like you, and like the people watching. Oftentimes, what happens is what we think is anger is actually our potency or our power that we're suppressing because we see no outlet for it. So how much power and potency did you have that even, if we were to go back and ask 13-year-old Michael, do you have power and potency? You'd go, hell no. And on the other hand, somewhere in your world, you would know that there was a power there. So
there was a total disconnect because I knew on some level, I absolutely knew, which is why I hung in there every day. And I was completely flipping clueless as to what to do about it.
Yeah, exactly that. So everything that is now, okay, so everything that sticks that way, because right now it's stuck. And still, if you went to do something to exhibit that power, it would still have the label of anger to it. But what I've noticed is that what happens is, in actuality, that's power and potency. Because in your world, you wouldn't, the one time, let's put it this way, the one time when it's appropriate to get angry is when somebody's lying to you.
Yeah.
Okay? When there's a lie involved. And then what you do is you say, what's the lie, spoken or unspoken? Once you get to the lie, your anger goes away. That's the one time when it's appropriate to get angry. The one time where anger actually creates something. All the other times, it's actually a suppression of your potency for the most part. Because, and what happens is when you're a little kid and you get angry and you're like, this changes, and they go, don't be an angry little kid. Well, were you being angry or were you being the potency that was required to change something? And it was misidentified and misapplied. Yeah. So everywhere you were the potency, but you saw no way to be it, and you were never given the freedom to be it or express it, and you were also never given the freedom to actually make your own choice. Will you destroy and uncreate it, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. Now, the other thing is, everything you did, everywhere you decided that this would never change, will you destroy and uncreate that, please?
Oh, heck yeah.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. So everything you've been carrying around with you is the other part that comes up. Okay, so will you acknowledge, to a certain degree, the slamming of doors and the getting angry was actually appropriate?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. So let me ask you this: what was the lie that had you stuck? That.
It was what my dad told me, as I said, I don't want to go into school one day. And I think I quit at the beginning of the following semester. And he told me, and I was saying all the reasons I didn't want to go back. And he said, it's not your fault, but it's your problem.
It's not your fault, it's your problem. It's not your fault, but it's your problem. It's not your fault, but it's your problem. All the secret, hidden, invisible, covert, unseen, unsaid, unacknowledged, and undisclosed implants and explants, creating that we destroy and uncreate it, please. Yes. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Oh. Oh, my friend. How you doing now?
There's both a sense of, I don't know how you can have a sense of lightness and an elephant sitting on your chest, but I'm going to go with both.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's go with the sense of lightness for a moment. And one of the things that I found is, like, you notice how, so we talked, just before starting record on the show, right? And you said, hey, we're going to talk about the sleeping giant for half an hour, and then we're going to go into finances, in which we may or may not do. We shall see. But the interesting thing to me is in the following of the energy. So notice I said how old, and I just, asked for your permission to do it this way rather than here, let me give you all some surface tools and maybe it'll change something. I'm like, hey, if you stick with this show, you'll get some change, period. You may not know what change yet, but in asking that question, notice how you went to a particular age. You got a download of that entire scenario. And we've been going step by step along the way So we get to this thing that you specifically remember the exact words your dad said. It's not your fault, but it's your problem. Sometimes.
That's the elephant.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the thing, is that sometimes one of the things that I found that's amazing to me in working with people, they'll have all of this stuff like that you've talked about, from the anger to all of this stuff, right? But there's one linchpin holding it in place that once you get to that and you pull it, it's like the whole thing goes and starts dissipating. Okay. That one thing with your dad, there's a piece in that. But then this elephant sitting on your head. So tell me more about the elephant or sitting on your chest.
So the next semester I went to quit.
So this elephant sitting on your chest, is it actually yours?
No.
Okay. How much is that the elephant that you've tried to dislodge from people's worlds your whole life?
Ooh. That sounds accurate.
Okay. So everything you did to buy it as yours because you could feel it so intensely. And everything you've done to take it on as yours.
Mm-hmm.
And wherever you bought it as yours in the first place, will you destroy and uncreate it, please?
Sure.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all 9 shorts, boys, and beyond. So okay, and everywhere you're committed to changing this damn elephant, no matter come hell or high water, no matter what anybody says, and you're going to friggin' do it, would you consider that all you have to do is go, you know what? No more. People can change their own damn elephants.
Yes.
And their elephant diapers. Thank you. Times a gazillion, right? Wrong, good, bad, all 9, pod, pock, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Okay, whoa, my friend, bit of energy there. Okay, so all of the feelings associated with this, all the no feelings, all the relational digitization, which is where you put reality into right and wrong, good and bad, ones and zeros, black and white, and all the Archimedean spirals, which is what takes space and compresses it to a tiny point. Will you destroy and uncreate all those, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all 9 shorts, boys, and beyonds. Zowie. Okay, how is that in your world right now?
Both just before that and during that. So I work with energy a lot myself. I got this tingling sense and almost like a molting of energy off of me.
Cool.
In a good way, if there is.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, I had that sense. Okay, so how about the elephant? Is it still there? Is it better, worse, the same, lighter, heavier?
Much lighter. I can breathe, so elephant might be gone. If not, elephant's been on one hell of a diet.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, and you're doing something right now called a vortex. Do you feel a cool breeze anywhere in your body? And that may be the chills you were talking about.
That's probably the chills that I was getting.
Okay, cool. And what happens is we do this work and we get to some of the bigger roadblocks in our lives. And when they explode and go away, we're left with this sense of space that really is the way we are as beings. And so there's this thing we have called a vortex where it's like a return to the space of your being, really is what it is. And so, cool. Okay. How you doing?
Doing good, and now I have a definite sense of air around me, but I don't think there's any moving air in here, so...
That's the vortex. Exactly.
Very cool.
Awesome.
So, guide me through this. This has been a table turner on me.
Okay, so if we look at this for a moment, it's like for me, there are so many things. Okay, number one, it's a tool we've talked about before, which is what's true always makes you feel lighter, a lie makes you heavier.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we did is we followed the path of lightness, but so once again, it's the asking of questions which gets us to these different possibilities. Mm-hmm. And so you said, you gave me permission, hey, let's just do this for people. And, and then you brought up the thing that occurred for you. And everything that I've been asking you has been based on it's been, obviously they've all been questioned, but based on little energy or big energies in some cases, especially in this case, that popped up in your world about different things. But how we can actually get underneath it to undo what's creating the most limitation so that you don't have to function from the limitation anymore. And so with this idea that what's true makes you lighter, a lie makes you heavier. And in asking you, okay, when I ask you this, does it make you lighter? And like, okay, yes, I'm getting lighter, lighter, lighter. Okay, cool. That lets me know we're going in the right direction. But what this is really about for me is these tools. If we didn't have this clearing statement, I couldn't do what we just did, for example. Okay. If I didn't have the awareness that anger is actually potency, if I went down the trauma and drama of the anger, I couldn't do what we just did. Mm-hmm. If I didn't have the awareness that the story that you present and the story that keeps running in your mind is only the only reason we have that is because we've got some limited point of view that we chose. Otherwise, we wouldn't have that story. We would just have possibilities. I couldn't get there. And so it's a totally different way of looking at the world, but also being able to change these major limitations that we've been living with sometimes for many, many lifetimes. Not just this lifetime, but in this case, this lifetime, for example. And so what becomes available, if you start to recognize that even this friggin' elephant that you've been carrying in your world that cognitively would only come up sometimes, and the way you notice the elephant is there is because you go to give your wife a hug and you're like, wow, there's an elephant between us. You know what I mean? Or you go to create something and you're like, wow, I'd like to have more of this. I'd like to have more of that. There's an elephant between me and what I'm asking for. Mm-hmm. That's the only time you'd recognize it's there, but it's there the whole time. But if we start to recognize we can change these things, if that level of change becomes possible in this amount of time, and the other thing is this completely, then what else is possible? What else can we, if we can do this with limitation and undo it, and if we truly don't have to be limited anymore, then beyond our limitations, what is possible that none of us have ever considered? And that's the excitement for me.
And so what we need to do really is step out of our lead boots.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So to take this full circle, and I'm not sure we'll really get to prosperity today, we may just have to have you back again, Dane.
That would be terrible. You know how I hate to be on with you. I love you. I love this. This is awesome. I would be honored to be back.
Awesome. We will have you back. So bringing this full circle, the question, people, because you're all about questions. I want to bring it back full circle, maybe because I'm the only one who forgets at this point, because my brain is tapioca right now. And thankfully, the microphone is attached to my head, or I wouldn't be able to hold it up. Where do we start? What is the one first question we start with? And then I'll piggyback. I hate asking two questions at once, but I'm going to go for it. The piggyback question, because I always like to give homework to people, is where do we have people start after they listen to this show?
Okay, so the first place to start sort of depends on what you'd like. We're all at different places in our lives, and the question you ask is based on where you'd like to go from here. So I'll just give you a few questions that can really start to contribute.
Yes.
One that we already talked about, how does it get any better than this? If you get nothing else out of this show, except hopefully a lot of you got some change out of what we just did with Michael. And once again, thank you for your vulnerability and willingness to go there.
Thank you. And oh my God.
So in addition to that, if you get one other thing, it's like, how does it get any better than this? You want to ask that when something good happens or when something bad happens. Because when you ask a question, different doorways of possibility open that you never saw before. A question always empowers and opens up other possibilities. An answer always disempowers and closes down possibilities. And so it's time to start functioning from the question and the conclusion rather than the answer. How does it get any better than this is a great question.
Let me pause you real briefly. That was so powerful. I know I don't want to ruin the train of thought that you're on. Ruin is such a negative word, but Can you repeat that about an answer and a question? I think that is huge for people.
Yeah, absolutely. See, a question always empowers and opens up other possibilities. The energy goes like this and gets bigger and wider and more spacious. An answer always disempowers and it closes down possibilities. So for every answer that we have in our lives, we're stuck with that answer. You know, a wise man once said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And it really is that easy, that simple. Every answer, every conclusion, every decision, and every judgment we have keeps any other awareness out of our world. Well, how do you undo that? Well, by asking a question. Even if you don't believe it. For example, if you ask, how does it get any better than this? And you don't believe it, it doesn't matter because you've asked the question. It will still open up something more than was there before. And so we have, how does it get any better than this? Another great question is, what else is possible here? Mm-hmm. Another great one is, what is it going to take to change this? And what can I be or do different to change this? Because in order to change something, you're going to have to be willing to be different. Another great question is, what's right about, what's right about me that I'm not getting? Most of us, if you're going around in the sense of the wrongness of you, what's right about me that I'm not getting? So these are some questions that you can start to institute and implement that start to create some different possibilities. And notice each one of those is open-ended. It's not, what's it going to take to get a BMW? Well, if you want a BMW, ask, what's it going to take to get a BMW? But the BMW is not going to solve your problems. You having the happiness and stepping into the possibilities, then you can finally enjoy the BMW if that's what you want. So it's asking these open-ended questions as a beginning. And then, so the other part of it, see, it's like for me, I've got over 300 videos on YouTube right now, and the number just keeps growing. But they're all free. They're all different tools from Access Consciousness. Go there, check it out, youtube.com /Dr. Dain Heer. And the reason I say that is because there's so much I want to give you, so much I would like to say, hey, do this. But we have an entire, my ADHD is kicking in big time. Thank God it's the mutation of the species to a higher order of function. Whew. But also on my website, there's a Being You video series, which has, it's like, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 videos or something. And it was based on somebody asking me, Dane, how did you change your life when you got to Access? And I went, great question. So I answered it on video and made the videos freely available to people. So that's on my website. There's a thing called a tour of consciousness on there, where you get a different video every couple of weeks with a different tool in sort of real time with what's going on in the world. Those are some of the free resources that are available. And then also, it's like in Access, we have this, what we call it is the core class thing, but it's basically about if you're somebody who's interested in truly exploring consciousness, truly becoming more conscious, but we actually have a path to follow. But it's not a path, it's more like a path that an ADHD person with autism would follow.
So it's kind of like pulling the golden thread.
Yes, exactly. Pulling the golden thread through many multiple universes and dimensions. So, and normally I don't talk about my stuff, because what I want to do is I want to let people know the possibilities are available. And if the possibilities are available, you'll find your path to those possibilities. And once again, remember, what's true always makes you lighter. A lie will always make you heavier. So if you think of going and watching the videos and it makes you lighter, then do it. If there's a book you think about getting, I don't know, like Being You Changing the World is an example. If it makes you lighter, get it. If it makes you, that one, it's my big old ugly mug on it. But if you think about doing it, it makes you heavier, then that's probably not the thing to do. There's lots of resources out there. The thing that I found is Access just has such a different way of going about things, and it has such different tools that seem to really be effective.
I've been learning more and more through the coaching, through the work that I've been doing with others, now through talking to you, just how important an early step is in clearing some of this junk, or you just keep hitting the same block, but you don't even know why you keep running into the brick wall.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And so it can really help to have somebody who Well, I mean, depending on what you're working with or working on, it's like either to have a, like a class that is structured in such a way that you can access those things and change them, or to have somebody work with you in such a way that you can get to the things that are really sort of the fundamental core of the limitation. Because you can spend your entire life running around out here trying to fix all this stuff, but if you don't get to the cause, it just keeps happening. And I mean, that makes sense to all of us, I'm sure. And so it's like, and once again, whether it's access consciousness or not, I don't care. I really, really, really desire you to actually have what you know is possible show up and not have to keep hitting your head against the wall.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're going to do just a few quick wrap-up questions. We'll save almost all of the abundance work for next time, although I will say this, I'm leading the witness here, but doing this work on me, doing this work on people who are listening, if we get at these lead boots, the things that were stuck, such as why am I working so hard but can't bring the money in, can't bring in the wealth and abundance that I deserve, all of a sudden can open up to us.
Absolutely. And that's exactly it, and the thing that I described about that intensity of feelings that you have, and then as a way of trying to handle it, you cover it with no feelings. What that does, see, there's my friend Gary, the founder of Access, because I used to, when I first came to Access, I had such a money problem, such an issue about money. And it was actually, truthfully, why I did so many of the self-help things I did, because I figured if I could solve the money thing, then everything else would fall into place. And so I'm talking to him about my money problem one day. We're actually up shoveling horse shit. He took me to, where he had his horses, and, I was cheap labor. So he had me shoveling horse poo with him. And I'm talking to him about my money problem. I think I was actually the one who got the better deal out of it, because I got free processing from him while I was shoveling horse poo. But I'm talking to him about the money problem, and he looks at me and goes, Dane, there's no such thing as a money problem. I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, there's only a problem with what you're willing to receive. And I went, oh, crap. This is a receiving thing. Yeah, literally, exactly.
And you were receiving lots of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly it. The only thing I was willing to receive was the crap, number one. I was willing to receive the judgment. I was willing to receive the self-judgment. And I was willing to receive that I wasn't good enough, and I wasn't smart enough, and that I wasn't enough to make the life and living that I wanted work. And so there truly, and I found this to be true after working with, I don't know how many people at this point, hundreds of thousands, I don't know, maybe 1 million at this point, that there truly is no such thing as a money issue. There's only an issue in what you're willing to receive. And so, but if you look at your childhood as an example, the example you were so brilliantly willing to share with all of us, it's like you see the recipe for it right there. And I'm sure there are other things, right? But there's sometimes where if you're asking to get to something, by virtue of that question and that request. So, for example, like, let's say you're out there and you go, hey, I'd like to change my money situation. Well, okay, that's one thing. I'd like to change it. That's nice. Now ask, universe, what's it going to take? Universe, I will do anything I need to change this. Please show me what it is. And then when you have that and you're listening to this podcast, for example, or watching it, then what happens is you're led to the particular thing in your life where you stop the receiving. Wow. It's almost like you're connected with the universe or something. It's almost like magic. But that's the way it is, and that's the way our lives could be. So this thing that you brought up as an example, you could see where all of those situations, I must be Italian today. This is awesome. Hello. You can see where the situation that you were in would cause you to shut down the receiving, because you were receiving such an intensity of judgment. You're receiving such an intensity of you're wrong for being you, because people judge you for being different. You're receiving such an intensity, and all of that, you can see where receiving gets shut down in that. And I know very few of us who don't have some version of that, great or small, where who don't have some version where we shut down our receiving. It's like most people have shut down their receiving in some way. And so to be able to unlock that is one of the greatest gifts that there is. And it's your question and also your willingness to do whatever it takes to change it that actually creates the different possibility. And so can I just give one more thing before we close here, Michael?
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay. So everybody out there, one of the things I'd like you to do is just think of one thing, one area of your life you would like to be different and like to have changed. Okay. And it may be a lot of you may have tapioca brains right now, so don't worry about it. This is actually really easy. But what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to get the sense of the way it would be in your world for that to change. Okay? Like, for example, like if we're talking about money, which we have been, it's like, what would the sense be of actually looking at your bank account and having it have way more money than you can count or spend in it? And not the fear that it's going to go away, and not the concern that, oh, now your house is going to burn down, so you have to pay for that, or, like just, and actually to have a sense of peace and ease with it and a sense of space with it. So get the sense of that with whatever that area is in your life you'd like to change. And so now what I'd like you to do is, now that you've got the sense of at least some part of how it could be if that were to be different, now ask for it. Because a lot of us want to change all kinds of stuff, but we never ask. It's so weird to me. We don't ask. And the universe will provide, but we have to ask. Ask and you shall receive actually works.
Is there any rules behind how we ask?
Yes, it's so simple. You're going to be like, seriously? Okay, so here's what you want to do. You want to acknowledge it, and acknowledge, number one, you acknowledge that you're asking for it. Mm-hmm. You just acknowledge I'm asking for that. And say, hey, universe, I'm asking. Okay? And then you say, universe, what's it going to take? Universe, consciousness, hook a brother up, hook a sister up. Give me whatever you can to make this as easy as possible and allow it to occur as quickly as possible. And I'm not going to get in the way with my points of view about it. I'm just going to let you show me the way. And I'm so sorry. I have been such a controlling bozo in the past. And I will just let you show me the way. Okay? And then what I would do, given that I have this clearing statement tool, oh, guess what? You all now have this clearing statement tool too if you're willing to use it. I would say pock and pod everything that gets in the way of that showing up. And every decision, every judgment, and every point of view that I have that gets in the way of it showing up. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Bit of energy on that one, my friend. Apparently the people watching are actually going to get some change out of this. That's pretty cool. And then the last thing I would do is all the points of view that I bought that keep that from showing up, that I'm still holding on to, I am now unbuying them, destroy and uncreate them, and return them to sender. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. So, woohoo! And so I want to just reiterate really quick, the ask is, because I put a lot of stuff in it, and I know I talk a lot, and sorry y'all, I just talk a lot. That's just something I haven't been able to change, or probably desire to. So for the ask, you want to get this area of life you want to change, get the sense of the way it would be to have it totally different, or as much as you can get in the moment. Acknowledge that you're asking for it, and then say, universe, I'm asking for this. Get the universe and consciousness on your side, okay? And so consciousness, universe, I'm asking for this. What's it going to take for this to show up? I will get out of the way. And the other thing about getting the sense of the way it will be when this is different is now you have an energy to follow, because anything that feels like that energy, you want to do it. Okay? If somebody invites you to coffee and it has a sense of that same energy, do it. They're going to give you some piece of information, or you'll meet somebody on the way to the coffee shop or something. So it's the way the universe, because the change isn't linear, and the change never looks the way you think it's going to, and it never comes about the way you think it's going to. So anything that feels like that energy, do it. Okay?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. If we asked infinitely quickly, what would you suggest for parents to help their kids to awaken the sleeping giant within?
Goodness. I'll tell you, let me tell you what my point of view is first, and see if this resonates with people. But from my point of view, from the moment you have a little one in the oven, you should look down there and say to them, sweet being, I am so grateful that you were here. I want you to know that you have far greater capacities than you have ever imagined. You are a magical creature walking, And I am so grateful that you were here, and I know you can do anything. And I know you're here to change the world for the greater. And I will always have your back. I will always be here for you, and I will always contribute to you. And please let me know if you ever need anything. And if I had kids, I would say that to them every single day. And having that point of view about our kids, from my point of view, is one of the greatest gifts we can give them. The next thing is, rather than what I would do if I were a parent is I would destroy and uncreate everything I decided and everything I learned about being a parent and everything I decided being a parent was every single day. And then look and see if, rather than being a parent as this reality defines it, do you really want to be a parent like that? Or do you want to be someone that empowers your kids to be the greatness that they are and empowers them to be as great as they can be and empowers them to reach to be even greater every day of their lives? Now, if you look at that, because people go, well, how do I do that? It's like, well, that's a constantly evolving landscape continuously. But if you have what I just said in your awareness as something that might be of value to you, if it makes you lighter when you hear it, then ask for that. Listen to this a few times, or maybe write it down so it's in your world. And then just with that awareness, you will start functioning differently with your kids from a place that acknowledges them rather than tries to parent them. And the other thing is, recognize that your kids are infinite beings with small bodies. It's not all of a sudden at 18 when they can vote, they become a full being. No, they're infinite beings right now with small bodies. And recognize also that these kids have a lot of awareness to give us from the time they're babies. And recognize that they're communicating energetically from the time they're kids. I recently did this session on a 7-year-old boy with neurological problems. Mm-hmm. And he couldn't talk. And the muscles were shutting down in his body and all kinds of things. And so I was communicating with him energetically. I might as well have been talking to the kid for all the information that I got. In fact, he communicated more information than most kids who talk. And I looked at that and I went, wow, most parents don't realize their kids are communicating energetically. So what you want to do is get over your points of view about being a parent. Get over the idea that you're doing it wrong, because all humanoid parents think they're doing it wrong. They think they're doing everything wrong, really, but then they especially think they're being bad parents. And recognize that you have something different that you're trying to accomplish with your kids, which is actually allow them and empower them to grow up to be the beings that they are and the great beings that they can be. And also recognize the gift that you are when you don't judge them and when you acknowledge them as the beings they are. And so the last thing that I just said, the not judging them, one of the greatest gifts you can give your kids, because they're aware of it, they feel it, we all felt it, and they limit themselves based on it. If you don't judge your kids, you'll give them every possibility that exists.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Thank you. Two things, last things. First off, before the show, you mentioned Access just crossed a milestone, so I want to congratulate you and
Thank you. Well, so let me actually tell you about that milestone. And this is, we had this awareness 15 years ago or 16 years ago that with 1,000 people truly in consciousness, and this is actually not in Access, this is in the world. With 1,000 people truly in consciousness, we could change the face of government. With 10,000, we could change the face of the planet, because we would be able to request possibilities from a reality of possibilities, not have to go through this reality of limitation to get there. And so we got the awareness the other night that we've actually gotten to 10,001 people in consciousness. And I have no idea how this is going to show up, but the reason I'm saying this is because I kind of would like those of you out there in the world that are interested in consciousness in any way to just see if things get easier. And those 10,001 people that are in consciousness are not all in Access. Hopefully some of them are. But it's 10,000 people around the world. And what is consciousness? It's where everything exists and nothing is judged. And you believe in and function from a reality of possibilities. And so with 10,000 people in consciousness, your request is my sense is, I could be totally off, but my sense is, I could be totally off because this never occurred before, okay, ever in the face, since time began at least. But my sense is that your request for something conscious, for something greater, for something that actually is a greater possibility, will actually start to get a lot easier than it ever has been before. And so just look for that. And the whole reason for me telling you that, and you can think I'm full of crap and I don't care. But my whole reason for telling you that is telling you that now I've got tapioca brain. My whole reason for telling you that is so that you can start to look at and see if the choices you have are becoming easier, if the possibilities seem like they're closer and more available. And so if you acknowledge that you recognize that consciousness is able to have your back and connect with you in a way it may never have been able to before. So you'll know what's true for you. Always follow what's true for you. And remember, what's true is always lighter. A lie is always happier.
Woohoo! Well,
Woohoo!
I'd ask for last words of wisdom, but maybe you just gave them to us.
I think that may be the last words of wisdom. And the only last thing I want to say is the possibilities that are available now are greater than they have ever been before. And I will say that if you look at the world, and I think it'll be a very interesting thing to look at the world 6 months from now, personally, and then 2 years from now. I think we'll see things in a totally different light. But if you look at the world, there's a lot of insane crap going on, probably more than there ever has been before, at least from our point of view, right? That I've seen occurs so many times when on the other side, possibilities are getting greater. Mm-hmm. It's the people who want to hold on to this reality try to get louder and more vocal so that this possibility that's occurring cannot take off and disrupt their reality because they'd rather have a predictable reality. And we're finally getting into the realm of being able to have a totally unpredictable reality. So the thing I want to say is don't let that get you down. Just ask, what contribution can I be to changing this? And what am I already contributing that is changing this that I haven't acknowledged? And what is the greatness I am and the greatness I can be that will contribute to a greater world for all of us? It's happening, and you guys are part of making it happen. And I thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Dane. That is a mighty woohoo!
Woohoo! Thank you, Michael. Always a pleasure.
My words exactly. Thank you so much for being on the show, Dane. For everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get being you, changing the world, and ask, how does it get any better than this? And shine bright. Woohoo!
Woo! Thanks, y'all.
Thank you so much, Dane. This was amazing, and I'd lay myself down to bed now if I didn't have a coaching client coming up as well.
You're so welcome, beautiful man.
Tapioca.
I hear you. Have a fun coaching session. Please give your wife a big hug from me.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!